Well, good morning, party people. Welcome to my smithy here in beautiful Kent, Washington, where everything is wonderfully green. We've had some rain this morning, but now it's cleared up. The sun has peeked through a couple of times, but we're kind of overcast today, as you can see through my back windows. And it's time once again to do something with this forge, make something pretty, and then continue with other projects. One of the things I'm going to try to do today, after I do my weekly leaf keyring, is see if I can get this. Let's see if I can get to a view where you can see it. If I can get a propane torch to get that hot enough so I can bend it straight, at which point then I can actually continue work on the shepherd's hook I'm making. And if not, then I'm going to end up getting map gas and see if that gets hot enough with the burner I have. And if not, then I'm going to end up finding, I should say, with the torch torch that I have. And if not, I'll get a new torch to go with to do that work. But as I do every live stream, let's start with getting a keyring bobble done. The typical leaf keyring bobble, which is what this is from last week. I forgot to actually seal it last week so it wouldn't rust, so I'll do that this morning. And as I was getting my fire ready, I'm just going to set this on top. It'll get warm enough just doing that to seal it. And as I was getting my fire ready, cleaning out just the dust that settles at the bottom, coal dust that settles at the bottom, cleaning out my my dial of tweer, making sure the ports were clear, I discovered that there were a couple of lumps of what do they call it? Clinker in there. This piece here was actually stuck to the side of the forge, stuck to the fire brick. So I ended up having to break out a hammer and a light so I could actually see it and knock it off. And this was just in the mix, and such that I'm pretty sure that's not burnable material. I can't be absolutely certain, but it seems very dissimilar to the rest of the coke that was in there. So setting those aside, let's get this fire stoked. I've already built the charcoal fire underneath. If you look at, you can actually, well, let's get a flame so you have enough light to see by. There we go. If you see right over here, there's a white chunk. That's a piece of the charcoal that's basically ashed to almost nothing. But the charcoal fire was able to stay lit while I then worked on getting the coke back in on there. I had to pull the coke out, get the coke back in on it, and then with the addition of air, it's enough heat to get the coke going. And we all know that the coke gets really hot. So let me break out the beeswax so I can seal up the steel that the wind came by and knocked my stuff around. Earl made me this beautiful little plaque here. I don't know if you guys can see it from there. And where did I have it sitting so that it would actually stay stable? Probably right there. Can you see that? Yeah, you can. Nice. He made that for me, and I love having it out here. But the wind catches it, decides where it wants to be, all on its own. I think I'll put it over here, if I can find a way to make it stay stable there. I have to clear off my bench a little bit. Oh no, actually have to clean? That's bizarre. There we go. Ah, yeah, much better. Now I'm not standing in the way of it. Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for joining the channel. So the first thing I got to do, well, let me finish what I started, which is seal the last week's work, because I forgot to do that last week. Should be more than hot enough to melt the wax now. Only needs to be a few hundred degrees. You can actually see, as we have smoke coming off of it, that we're plenty hot enough. Bring it around so I get the other side. The idea is to get a good coating, just like when you're curing a cast iron skillet. You literally could cure your cast iron skillet with beeswax as well. It's food safe. I just don't know anybody that does it. Typically people use things like bacon grease or other oils. I like to use flaxseed oil because it cures really hard and smooth. There we go. Now we shouldn't end up with this thing rusting down the road. I'm going to put it right back on top again. There we go. You can see it doesn't take much heat. So just like you would with a cast iron skillet, you put your oil on there, you heat it up. I don't really need it to get on fire. I don't want it to burn off. I just want it to penetrate. Now we have to do something of this effect with anything we forge. Otherwise, you will end up with rusted steel. So you either are doing this, or you're painting it, or you're lacquering it. You're doing something. This, why you don't see very many cars that aren't painted, and the ones that are sporting stainless steel. I'm looking for my rag. Where did I do with my rag? Oh, there it is. And while this is hot, it's about as hot as anything you would pull out of the oven, so just grabbing a rag like you would pulling something out of an oven is all that's necessary to protect yourself. Always practice safety as your first concern. Safety second is a good joke, but that's only a good joke until you actually hurt yourself. So there you go. Now that's properly sealed, we can move on to the next one. We can put away the tongs for the moment, won't need them. Somebody had asked me about why I don't use gloves last week, and the simple answer is if you wearing a pair of gloves, holding onto your hammer is a little bit harder to do. So I reserve wearing gloves when on the hammer hand to when I'm getting working with forge welding temperatures, and even then I may or may not, depending on how big a piece I'm dealing with. And as far as the other hand is concerned, I will wear a glove on this hand if I know that the area of the metal I'm working with is going to be hot and tongs aren't available. In this case, I'll show you up close. I'm going to switch modes. Yep, and I always forget that your actual name is Kevin. So, safety. If you notice, this steel is something purchased from one of the big box stores. You know, nice label on it to tell me how big a steel I'm working with. But I don't take that off, mainly because I'm not working this end, and this will actually start to shrivel if the metal starts getting too hot. And so I know as long as I'm staying back here where the piece of plastic is, I'm fairly safe. And even then, I'm keeping my my hand loose around it at first, so I know I can let go of it pretty quick if I have to. Now, from the last work, you can see there's already a taper on here, but there's a nasty bit at the tip. So I'm going to go ahead and chop off that tip, bring the taper back into shape again, and then we'll work on making a longer leaf this week. Wonder what's going on with the trail dust count. As I've mentioned a lot of times, the small stuff cools off pretty rapidly. So I'm already to the point where I can manipulate it right here. And that's, I mean, I knew that I only got it up to about 300 degrees to begin with. And then the stuff cools off very rapidly when it's that small. And I'm going to do something not at all exciting over at my other anvil where I cut it off. You can see I got the tip really hot. And we'll just go over here and quickly knock that bit off. I really need to create, that's one of my next big projects, is create a new hardy tool here so I can have a good cutoff tool. And by good, I really mean that I don't use found metal that I found in my yard of unknown source to actually create it. Now it turns out this one has actually kept a pretty good edge, all things said, but you know, it does roll just a little bit, so it's not, it definitely is not, you know, blade steel or tool steel most likely. But more importantly, this shank is the wrong shank. I think what I really need to do, now that I think about it, is at minimum create a conversion. So I'm going to see if I can find pipe that this fits into that I can put inside of here. And at least then I can use the two tools I've made for the other anvil interchangeably over here, which one of them is a heading tool. And I don't have to work too hard to get this as hot as I need to forge to a good tip. I always remind myself too late that I probably don't have to turn this nearly as fast as I'm turning it. Get the oxygen level just to the right point where it's getting the right heat, but not having to add to the oxidation of the metal is a smart move. Oh, look at that. I already got it so hot it was ready to forge weld. All right, let's clean it up a bit. Draw that taper out. There we go. Got a good clean taper. Come back here. Set it down where I want the leaf to be. There we go. Come over here. Start blending that transition in. All right. Let's get her warming again. Start drawing that back to the stem. Huh. Just out of the blue, it just started working. What's interesting is I, of course, have no control over any of that. I don't know, I have no guidance even as to what's going on there. But it is interesting to see the behavior is kind of all over the place. Slow down, don't need so much air. Hi, Rosie. Rosie's saying good morning to everybody. Let's clean up that transition. I had a bit of a... Okay. Yeah, it's funny. There was a joke on a movie I watched at one point. I'm not going to say the name of it simply because this is an all ages channel. But those of you who know what I'm talking about. Where they said nobody understands the cloud after something got uploaded to the cloud that they really didn't want uploaded to the cloud. And I, at the time, was working for Google, and you know, helping build the cloud. So I would say that I understand how the cloud works. Well, there's still a lot of black boxes up there. I haven't got a clue how it works. How are we as far as getting across the anvil for length now? Pretty close. Getting there. A little deeper in the fire so I get the right spot hot. Slow it down. I'll say one thing, in my current role, and with the ability to say that hindsight is 20/20, in other places I've worked, and I can say very straightforward. There's a lot of parts of the internet that are built on a house of cards. They are built just good enough to get things done, and just bad enough that when things fail, they fail catastrophically. And if you ever want a conversation on that topic, reach out to me offline. I'd be happy to share what I know. Right. Yep. Now we got it all the way across. Go ahead and start rounding it up, turning it into something that looks like a stem instead of an 8-bit version of a stem for you Twitch watchers. And this is going to take very little effort to get it to the heat I need it, so I got to be very careful not to burn it off, as I've done in other episodes of this live stream. A little coffee to get me going. Actually, coffee does not get me going. I have some amount of ADHD, and apparently stimulants work differently on those of us who deal with that. I could literally take a nap after drinking coffee. Makes me understand why kids who take Ritalin sometimes hate it, saying it makes them feel like a zombie. Knock the corners off. All right, we'll go ahead and heat back up again, knock some more corners off. Very cautious about how much heat I put into this at this point. Too many times I've burnt it off. All I'm doing now is planishing. I'm not trying to make anything longer or wider or anything like that, which is why it's not so bad to do it when it's in the black. But as I said, it also cools off really fast, which means I get less and less effective the longer it's away from that red. knock off that extra coal that got stuck to it, or coke actually, that got stuck to it. And you can see I'm not putting any force behind this at this point. To do force would leave major divots. All I'm trying to do is smooth. And that's coming around really nice. And you can do this for quite some time to knock off all the facets and get really smooth. I don't need to do that too much here. I think that looks really good. We've got a couple of places where hammer marks are still in there, but they don't look like hammer marks. They just look like, you know, the stem isn't absolutely, you know, perfectly round all over, and that's fine. All right, I'm going to heat it up back here again. Actually, no, I think I'll make the leaf first, then I'll work back there. Okay. Now the tricky part is to heat the leaf, not the stem. Don't want it to fall off the stem. And it's just about putting it in the right place in the fire. See that it's traveling up the stem, so I'm going to pull it back a little bit. It amazes me watching folks who do this. Well, actually, most of the smiths I've seen doing leaves don't use coal, probably because coal is very much better suited for big work, but it also could be because so many of them want to move right on to bladesmithing that a propane blade forge is really the best tool for the job. All right, that's plenty hot enough for me to then start making it look like use the heel and the toe of my hammer to create the look I'm going for. Which is that it has a center vein. Now the tip is a little thick still, so I'm going to warm it up, thin that out just a little bit, give it a little more shape there. I have to say, I'm sure that some of this is just skill. Some of this is that I'm using a heat source that makes it easier to get it done faster. Some of this has to be that this hammer makes my life a lot easier than it was before. Nice center vein all the way down, and we got a pretty close to uniform thickness of the leaf. So I'm very happy with that. Gonna go ahead and see if I can make it a little more centered. We did get a little bit of a what's the opposite of symmetry? Non-symmetry? Unsymmetry? Whatever. Unsymmetrical result here at the base of the lobe of the leaf, but we'll live with it. You know, what did I do to make that happen? It was probably that my set down where they should have been. So get a nice cleaning of this before I work the base, and then I might not have to use the wire wheel when I'm done, but we'll see. I do want to see about sinking that in my little wood swage over here, but I'm not going to bore you with seeing that. We'll see if that actually looks good when I'm done. Let's see. You'll definitely get to see the outcome. I just don't know if I want to move the cameras around to show you me trying to get it done. Yeah. All right, getting close. All right, over here. If this works out the way I hope it does, it'll bowl nicely, giving the leaf some shape. Yep, there it did it, while not losing the vein. And you can see I just used the tiniest little ball peen hammer to pull this off. But look at that. I still have my center vein there. Let's brush it off. And all I did to do that, though we're not switching you over to look at it, is I have my other anvil mounted on a tree stump just like this one. But over there, I've gone ahead and put something hot on that tree stump and beat into it just like I did now, and that automatically creates a bold shape that other things can be beat into. In this direction, I beat down on it this way, and as you can see, it creates a bold shape in that direction. It's a poor man's spooning swage or bowling swage. As I always try to say on this channel, if you're somebody looking at this wondering if it's something you can do and afford to do, the answer is almost assuredly yes. So, and it already has the curve I want to bring this stem around in this direction to lay on top and towards the side to give it that tendril look. But first I'm going to go ahead and thin that out to even more, and then start twisting it to see if I can make the pretty penny scroll that Alec Steele does on his demonstration of how to make one of these. Let's do a little bit of firework here. Got plenty of coke just sitting on top here, so I really don't need to, but it's always good to maintain the fire. Break up the forming coke. Oh, we still got a piece of charcoal sitting right on top now because everything's been moved around. Charcoal is not useful to me now, but I needed to put a good amount in there to begin with just to make sure that while I was setting everything else up, the fire stayed going. Charcoal does not go out when left alone, whereas coke does. I see a lot of smiths who will start their fire using, you know, sticks, scrap wood, and that's absolutely perfectly fine, because what ends up happening is the scrap wood ends up burning into cooking into charcoal, and then you have charcoal that keeps the rest of it going. Let's see. All right, good. Let's not screw up my leaf here. I've got it deep in there so that it's hopefully not anywhere near the fire. There we go. Got the heat right where I wanted it. It's always nice when a plan comes together. Let's transition that nicely. While I thinned it out, I don't want it to look like it doesn't belong. So, honestly, I need to rewatch his video to see him do this part, because he makes it so it looks so simple. All I'm doing now is trying to round it out so that it doesn't turn out looking like the last one, which, although it looks good, the last bit to me, my critical eye, doesn't look as organic as the rest. There we go. Nice and rounded and smooth and transitioned so that it looks like it's just a continuation of the stem. We're going to heat that back up again. Again, hoping to not, actually I want to go this way. Ah, and there it is. Too easy, just snapped right off. I'll end up having to trim that little bit off for the next live stream, and then I'll be ready to go with another one. But now I'm going to have to work at it a little harder to get the curlicue where I want it. That's all right. Let's see. I need a new tongs. Let's grab it and work it. The good news is I got the leaf done, so these tongs will work just fine for working this. And this time it wasn't heat, it was just stress in a small area. Quickly builds up and makes it so it wants to snap right off. I probably should not have done what I did there, but honestly, I remembered Alec doing that, things ready for doing the twisting he does to get it off the source steel. So now I'm gonna see about getting that really down to a point so I can then scroll it. And yes, you hear me hitting the anvil a lot, and it's mainly because I'm probably using the wrong side of my hammer for such a small piece. All right. Time to scroll it. I don't know if you saw what I did. It was basically just bring it to a point so I can have a really pretty finial on the inside of the scroll. All right. I can actually see where all the heat is, so I'm just going to go right in there. Be careful about how much of it I use. There we go. And then scroll it. Good old-fashioned scroll work. cools off really fast. I think I'm going to switch hammers just so I can get in there easier. It's always the finishing touches that are the hardest part. The gross parts, the big movement parts, not a big deal. There we go. Close that up where I wanted it. Let's get it. Keep pushing it over. Tighten it up. Pushing it over. Kind of brushing strokes to bring her where I want it. Oh, there we go. Time for me to go get a drink of coffee. You choose your own beverage of choice. Definitely stay hydrated. We're coming into months where some states are going to start getting warm. Here, we're getting up into the mid-60s, not quite touching 70 yet. But when you work around a fire, you've got your own heat to work with. Can't wait to do this when it starts getting to the 80s here. The question is, can I maintain the same level of PPE? In other words, these great shirts and pants that my wife got me. Or am I going to have to switch to like a kilt? Probably end up wearing a kilt. Oh, look at that scroll. That's coming along real nice. See that? Not quite as tight as it would have been if I'd been able to twist it off the bar, but pretty close. I'm happy with that. Back in there, warm it up some more. As you can see, it all cools off real fast, but also warms up real fast. All right, go ahead and make the big move on it, and start brushing it over again. Yep. Another piece. Time for another drink of coffee if you've got it. And the way I brushed that over, it started to move things in a direction I don't want it. So let's get it where I do want it. There we go. That's better. All right, I think that's as tendrilled up as I really need that. And I just realized I tendrilled it in the wrong direction, but that's okay because this is steel, and if we're real careful, we can twist it around in the direction I actually did want it. Real easy. Let's see, where am I going to, I think I'm going to heat it up in this area. We'll give it a twist, and because it's rounded, nobody will be able to tell that I did that. So, we'll go here. We're not letting go of the leaf because heavens knows I would lose it in here now. Starting to heat up just nice. Put it in a little deeper so I can get it higher up. I'm going to end up throwing it over in the vise that I showed you last week. Again, I'm starting to think I want to have one, if not two more cameras, just because I would love to be able to just switch views for you to be able to see those things without me having to move cameras around. All right, it's warm enough. We can cool off the actual curlicue part. We're not looking to move it. Close my vise around that. Just give a nice twist. And when I come over here and show you, you're not going to believe that it was on the other side. There you go. Now it's in the direction I want it, so that when I loop this around, the curlicue will come out the way I want it. Do some cleanup before I do that, so it'll be less need to break out the, maybe no need to break out the electrical device. My angle grinder with the wire wheel on it. Up. And one more dropsy. Think anybody want to take and make a bet as to whether or not another one happens before I get it done? Based on what I just did, I would say you will lose if you bet against dropping it one more time. This is the side that's harder to hold on to. There we go. Oh no. I think I actually did want it the other way, but I don't care. It's good. No, I do want this to go into the bowl, and then people can see the pretty vein from that side. Okay. Indecisiveness. Let's go ahead and grab it from the side that actually is easier to hold on to. Warm it up, twist it around. And for this, I think I'll break out the scrolling tongs. Although, actually, I'm going to break out another tool. And this time I will move you, because I've been wanting to try this. I think I made it too big. Pretty sure I made it too big. Now I just got to remember where I put it. There it is. So I made this a couple of sessions ago. Simple bending jig. But I'm fairly certain I made it too big. We're going to go ahead and put it over here in the post leg vise. Doesn't really have to be clamped super hard. And then I'll actually move you over to the post leg vise. Let me see what I have to loosen to make that happen. There we go. And then where are we? There we are. So you can see the U in the vise right there. I'm going to come over to that and try to put it to use. See if I can get a easier way of making these bends so I'm not fiddling with it so much. When I learned the craft, Kevin, it was all in kilt, because it was almost always at the Central Florida Highland Games, where I would hang out with my buddies that did Renaissance reenactment and watch them do it, and then after watching them for a while, decided to give it a go myself. Okay, let's see if I'm right that definitely made it way too long, but it's not horrible. It does result in a smoother turn. I could always use this as my mechanism, yeah, for holding it in place, and then turn around that. That works actually pretty well. As you can see, got a nice smoother bend there. I think I can finish the job with these, but it does mean I think I'm going to end up making, if not more of those, tightening that one up at minimum. Let's go over here. So there are photos out there on the webs with me in a great kilt. on a particularly cold day with it pulled up and then later dropped down because it warmed up. Yeah, Central Florida in January, or February? February. I think it was February. The weather is everything. You'll have cold, you'll have rain, you'll have, it gets freaking hot and sticky, stinky, humid. And then the only thing I think that it misses is the snow. And that's all right by me. I like my snow here, but after driving through a blizzard, I can say that I don't want to think about it again for a while. And there we go. That made for a nice curve. Very organic looking. About the only thing that I'm disappointed with is now I'm not so sure I wanted to twist it in the other direction. I should have run it around this way. But the deed is done. We'll call that good enough. Let's see if I can clean it off. And there's the other drop. And that's because spring steel likes to grab things and throw it with one of these if you haven't got a good grip on things. Okay. I like the way that looks. We'll go ahead and heat it up one more time, throw some beeswax on it so I don't forget this time. And move on to the next project. There we go. All right. Let's see if it's still hot enough for some beeswax. It is. It's not smoking though, which means it's probably not penetrating, so we'll end up going ahead and melt some beeswax on it and then putting it on the fire. Oh, I'm pointing at the wrong thing still. And this is why, pretty sure, I would like to have a dedicated camera over there. There we go. Set it down. By the way, anybody who sees the beeswax on the anvil, don't worry. It doesn't hurt the anvil in the least bit. It may actually prevent me from having my anvil collect dust. Yeah, one more drop. Never hurt anything. All right, that's got a good coat on there. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the oven as it were. Watch it smoke. At which point it should have penetrated pretty well. Plenty hot enough now. We'll go ahead and let it sit out. Now we'll get a wipe off. All right, the next little bit is not going to be done in the forge. It's going to be outside the forge to see if the torch is going to be good enough, or if I need to go buy some map gas and or a new torch head. And yes, that is hot, but again, the rag is doing its job. It's not hot enough to combust. Okay, there we go. There's this week's submission. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, is this was my first one, and I didn't have a clue how wide it should be. There's another way of going about it that I saw somebody do that I thought was pretty ingenious, which was, instead of doing this, having some socket extenders, you know, half-inch socket extenders, and using those in there, and then set sockets on top that are the size you need to bend around. And I think, the more I think about it, I should be able to pick up some of that kind of stuff at used tool shops or yard sales or things like that, or hell, go over to you know, Harbor Freight and pay for some for a cheap couple of sets, and I'll be set to go for bending jigs. So I have to decide which way I want to go. But clearly that was much bigger than I needed it to be, and so I think I'm going to go ahead and throw it in here while I'm thinking about it, because, you know, ADHD, best to do things while you're thinking about it, or have a list of things you need to get done. Tighten that up a little bit. Try it again next time. And it looks like the fire was about to go out because I haven't used it for a bit. So let's stoke it up pretty good. We'll for sure make it so that the fire doesn't go out by throwing a piece of charcoal down there in the base of it. And we'll pull some more stuff in front. Looks like there's some stuff that started to coke up. I wasn't quite done with the job. Pull that stuff forward. Right now it looks like a dead system, but I am almost certain I'm seeing airflow. Yep, there it is. Some smoke starting, which means you're going to see flames here in a second. Two angles, as in angle iron? Rod welded on. Yeah, that makes sense. Clamp them in the vise and then you can move them apart. Yeah, that's a smart move. I've got the welder, I've got angle iron. That might be a good way to go. And then for that matter, if I really, really felt like I needed to, I could put, yeah, I mean, that would definitely be a way to go. Get some half-inch square, verify that it actually fits correctly in the socket, weld that on, and then I can have the socket for as big around as I need it to be. I'd actually only need one of those to be square like that. The other one is just for holding the piece in place. I like that idea. That's a really good one. More stable than just putting the rods in there. I was going to do the rods and move them apart for the purpose, but the angle iron would be more stable. because you're just pinching it closed, pinching the 2 pieces of angle iron closed, not rod. There we go. Now it's a heavy piece of metal, so there's a good chance it's yeah, that metal is actually cool enough now to handle. You can see just how quickly it cools off and why I have to keep throwing it back in the fire to heat it back up again. There you go. That one's done. Put it over here with this one for last week's work. And I don't know which one I like better, the very natural looking tendril, except for the very end that actually looks like, I don't know, some people will say it looks great. Or this one with my scroll. I think this one's cool just because it takes more skill on my part to get it to look that nice. All right. Let's see. Piece of metal's in here somewhere. There it is. Yeah, we're getting that angle and we're getting that curved part as hot as I need it. Let's get it in the fire in a way that, there we go. There we go. There's what I was looking for. I wasn't getting any airflow. Sometimes the coke gets small enough to block the vent. There's only basically 1.5 vents in there opened up for anything. So all the airflow goes through that. It does a very good job, as you can see. Every now and then I just got to give it a little shove. Make sure that the vents aren't blocked. Most of the forges I've seen have a screen over the top of the vents. So, and therefore, and it's a bigger vent. As you can see, I don't go through very much fuel, likely because I have this unique venting system. Turn over the fire a little bit. Of course, I'm turning over the fire. I moved my piece from where I needed it. And end up making the wrong part hot. There we go. Yep. Didn't mean to do that. I have to put it over here while I grab some of that PPE and shake things up down here on the tweer. Yeah, that's what I thought. There's something falling into place that shouldn't. All right. Set that up out of the way. It's looking like one of my ports is blocked. It's making it so I can't actually dial my tweer. But the good news is, good news, bad news, I guess, is it looks like one of the further back ports is now opened up. So I'll get all the, yeah, okay, we're good on being able to work, but I'll have to do a clean out again next week or tomorrow. Be able to see what's going on down there. But we're still good for the moment. find my workpiece in that mix. It's got to be hot enough now to do what I need. Well, not really. Oh, wrong way. Well, getting some uneven heat. Much closer together. Now if I can get things to be a little straighter, I'd be happier, but it's not vital. Well, I've got a very noisy chick right now. No idea why. I'm going to take a minute to look. Not used to hearing chicks make that much noise. Well, hello, babies. Are you okay? Hi, mamas. What do we got going on here? Oh, we got a new baby. That's what. There you go. Good mama. Let me see. Good babies. Good mama. No, you're fine. Let me see, mama. 3 new babies. Wow. Baby. Wow. Hello, mama. Well, it turns out all the noise was that they were welcoming 2 new siblings. They literally, all the chicks were up inside the chicken coop welcoming a new sibling. And it turns out it was 2 new siblings. I didn't know they did that. I knew there was another one up in there. So technically there are 3 that are still up in the coop. One of them hatched yesterday or the day before. And I've got 6 running around with their mamas inside the chicken run. So I got a whole lot of bantam chickens I'll be giving away. About the only thing bantam chickens are good for are being terribly cute and making tiny little eggs that are perfect for oh darn it, I know what I want to say. For there we go. Perfect for pickled eggs. Great size for pickled eggs. All right, that's about where I want it. Almost parallel. And getting a nice carbon coating by hitting burning all the vegetation in the dirt. Oop. So I think that's good enough. And we'll use that next week. We're taking my stem around, see if that's in a good spot. Or if indeed I need to straighten the 2 sides out a bit more, or if I need to get them to come together a bit more. All on next week's episode. All right. Now, let's find out if a propane torch can get a piece of rebar hot enough to bend. That there. This here. Move these over. Take a drink of coffee. And let's see how hot we can get things with a good old-fashioned Worthington propane torch. That's what I thought. There, a bunch of little spiders just showed up on my torch, on this, out of nowhere. Little baby spiders. And some of them are now on me because I wiped my hand off after running my hand through the web. Here I thought it was just some sort of dust in the air, pollen or whatever, got caught in a web. Then they started crawling across the top of my anvil. Now I'll have the creepy crawlies all day. Hey, next week, adventure and excitement. Yeah, I can start using my announcer voice. A couple of years of singing baritone in community theater and in Orlando and at the Orlando Opera helped me build that one up. That was a lot of fun. This may work, but I have a suspicion I've got to go through the gas pretty fast this way. What I'd really like to find, if this actually is something would work, I'm going to turn this off real quick. Since Kevin, you might have a better clue than I do. This is, let me switch you over to this view. This is a fuel line I have, plenty long enough to go across my whole smithy. That was the way I designed it, that I hook up to my forge. It's got an NP connection on this side, and it's going to my propane tanks outside. I got two 100-pound tanks so that I could never struggle with the tanks freezing and so forth when I'm forging. But what I'd really like to do is have some way of hooking this up to a torch. Unfortunately, I don't know how to do that except to go and also buy, and this might be the smart thing to do, but also go buy a big oxygen tank, at which point then I know there are torches out there that I could hook this to along with the oxygen, and then I would have the best torch. It's just I've been avoiding getting oxygen. I don't know if it's probably FUD, but with that uncertainty and doubt going on there, I got a bit of fear about having a big tank of boom boom, near my smithy. So, but like I said, it's probably unfounded. Somebody who knows more probably could teach me more. But that's what I would like to do, and then I won't worry about running out of propane, and I'll know that I have plenty of heat because it'll be an oxypropane situation rather than just a plain propane or MAP gas situation. people who are observant will see I have an oxyacetylene kit back there on the floor. You see, am I pointing in the right direction? You get out of the way of it and you'll see it right there. The problem with that is, turns out those kits, and I would never recommend anybody ever buy them, but those kits, the oxygen tank in them are just way too small. You run out real fast. And it may have something to do with the fact that I don't know what I'm doing, but I still think that the oxygen tank's very small. Haven't decided yet if this is an exercise in futility or not, or if I just need to be patient. It definitely changed the color of the metal, but it changed it from rusty to black. And I don't know if the black is just buildup of soot. The claim is that propane on its own can get up to 3,600 degrees, but I don't know if it can do that with this particular torch head. I also don't know where the hot zone is. Is it at the tip of the blue? I think it's at the tip of the blue. That's what I've heard with oxyacetylene, is at the tip. But again, ignorance on my part. Bigger torch head would be hotter. Much hotter. Yeah, I figured it would be the case. Like I said, I have to find out what the real safety concerns are, if there are any, and what the right actions are to minimize any safety concerns with having a big tank of oxygen sitting next to my propane. Or is it have the big tank of oxygen sitting away from the propane? I don't know. Oxyacetylene tanks sitting next to each other are no big deal. So I don't see any reason why it would be a big deal having the two tanks sitting next, or three tanks in my case, sitting next to each other. But again, I'd rather be educated before I make that move. All right, I'm going to turn this off and just see, did anything become movable from doing that? Nope, not the least bit. So I think I'm going to end up getting a different kit. I've done some reading online where people talk about there's a version of head that goes on one of these kind of tanks where the tip is interchangeable with other tips, as well as if I switch over to map, then it would get hotter as well. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, I can do that. I've got some of that sitting around here. Plenty of that sitting around here. Not the thick, what do they call it? The low density stuff that actually insulates so well, but the standard stuff that you put in the floor of your forge and so forth. So let's do that. Why not? Go ahead and switch back over to this view so you can see the thing I'm building. We'll go ahead there. I need to make a tunnel is what I need to do. Pretty sure I have, yep, there we go. A couple of smaller pieces that I can use for this. Where I had a brick break. I mean, it's definitely putting off heat. It's just not enough heat. To make it as pliable as I want. Yep, that's what I thought would happen. It's only my toe, it's all good. Don't do that. Persistence. Okay. Nope. What will I do? That'll work. All right. You can see so much with that. Building blocks with, right? Let me see. How do I like that? You know what would be even more fun is if you actually could see something. So let's make it so you can see something. I now know these are all of the bricks I need. Build it in the opposite direction. Nope. There we go. All right. Then we'll go here. Nope. There we go. There, there. Slide it all forward like that. Yep, there we go. Nifty cool. Create a tiny little forge box. Then we come over here. We lower this way down. Can you see anything? 1 second. And there it is. Man, I would love it if that were possible. Even more fun would be, you know, just to have other Smiths here with me. One of my best live streams so far, in my opinion, and I'm not alone, others have told me the same, was when my buddy Earl was here. So I'm actually planning on reaching out to one or more, if there are more than one. I think there might be more than one blacksmithing schools here in the area, and asking them, do they have anybody who does YouTube videos? If they do, great. If they don't, great, because frankly, that's just an you know, a way to introduce the idea that I do YouTube live streams every week, and I would really enjoy having one of their people, whether it's somebody who is a YouTuber, or if they don't have one, then one of their instructors come on out here and be a guest smith and talk about the classes that they offer, because I know the beginner YouTubers, I mean the beginner smiths out there, or the wannabe smiths out there that are, you know, not so sure they can do it, would, you know, really appreciate having that. I decided I want to move this around just a hair. It'll actually be better, I think, if I can do it this way. Yep. And this way. And use these bricks to use this brick to hold that brick. Maybe a few of these bricks for weight. Or I might just go and get and break one of my other bricks apart. It's not like I don't have a bunch of them. I do believe that is what I'm going to do. Yep. Show you the exciting part. These bricks are brittle. You score them a bunch of times in the right place, and they'll probably just break right there where you scored them. And these bricks are readily available at your Tractor Supply, or what do you call it? The one I use all the time is Coastal. They're readily available at Coastal, with a whole lot of other stuff for making your own fire pits, making your own, you know, pizza ovens, or, you know, whatever it is that you're looking to make. Now the question is, will it actually break on that line? We're going to double our chances by scoring it around. And yes, I am just using an old screwdriver for this. Mainly because I still haven't gotten around to making myself a scribe. Maybe that'll be another show. Oh yeah, that was a real straight. So, now that I've weakened the brick along those areas, watch it break somewhere else. Nope, it actually worked. All right. But be it known that when you do go buy these things, or if you get them in a kit with your forge, as I did, it is that easy to break them. There's that, and that. I'm actually going to now move this back a little bit because I've got more brick to work with. Close that up a little bit. Basically what you're seeing me do, for those who are just tripping across this now, is build an impromptu forge. An impromptu gas forge. So if I've said before that this is not something that is out of your reach, I'm not kidding. It is not something out of your reach. I'm literally making a forge in front of your eyes. Obviously, I'm doing it in a place that's not the most convenient for doing this, in that you don't normally do this on your anvil. You actually want to do work on your anvil, but I want to show you how easy it is to do. Your forge is the easiest part of blacksmithing. Okay. Again, put that right back there. Everything should just hold in place. This will sit on top. Then you put some doors, as we would refer to them, on the back. And only because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing here am I leaving it open on the other side, but frankly you could close it all in with just enough room for airflow. There we go. Now things shouldn't just accidentally fall off. There we go. Okay. I think I'm going to get another brick to go across here. The bricks aren't expensive. They're just a few dollars a piece. There we go. And now I have a forge. Obviously, where'd the propane bottle go? There it is. Obviously, you would not typically stand here holding a propane bottle to get the job done. But also, obviously, that is something that can be done. I'm going to go ahead and lower this so you can actually see inside. That was a great idea, Kevin. Let people also see how doing this hobby is actually achievable. There you go. You got basically a forge. And the only thing that I would do differently is I wouldn't do this on your anvil normally, because you'd actually want to use your anvil for work. But in this case, we can actually see if it gets hot enough. The bricks will, in some amount, actually reflect back the heat. They'll absorb some of the heat as well, but in some amount they'll reflect back the heat, so you get to contain that heat into an area. And just for fun, so I can actually see the chat. And you can see my ugly mug, what I'm doing here. There we go. Yeah. Think like an old guy. Yeah, I mean, you got to think. We get spoon-fed so much stuff in today. There was a tweet that I just saw this week that was incredible, and it said, it said something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing with my own take of it, obviously, but take a moment, look around you, realize everything required somebody to think of it and make it happen, and they probably did it out of passion, not money, because if you think about who the actual makers are, they're not the ones with the money typically. They're average Joes like you and me who took the initiative to think outside the box and make a thing happen. And we're talking literally everything. You gotta marvel at that sometimes. Otherwise, you just take it for granted and you forget that you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. Folks who don't take action forget that they're accepting things as they are instead of taking action to make things better. The pains I go through, mostly in my knees at the moment, to make something I want to share with you guys. You can see the hot spot growing on the roof of this thing. If I could actually get you to that angle, which means indeed we're getting some good heat and probably some bounce back. I gotta see if I can get this just a little bit lower. I think it'd be fun to see. As it all tips over on me. You see the red spot in there now. Where clearly the, of course everything just went catty-walkie because I did what I did. I almost feel like you're on an episode of the Batman series where the bad guys have just stepped in. There we go. Nice bright red spot on the brick, which means that it's putting out a lot of heat. I can't tell if it's putting out enough heat to There you go. Well said. Now what I would do differently for your forge, if you were going to build this thing as a forge, is I would have the face here also closed off. And I would not try to work with something as big as rebar. I would use the full length of the bricks as the length of your forge, so that you could have enough room in there to work with something. But it really is this simple to get going with a forge. If you don't want to work with a solid fuel blower-based system. Well, Jason, if you trip along this, you're going to find out that I'm probably going to end up investing in a better propane setup. This is not a long-term solution for sure. I can feel the heat bouncing down here. It's not affecting the anvil or anything, but I can feel the heat bouncing down to my hand at the base here where I've got my bottle, about 6 inches down from where you can see my hand here. So it's putting out good heat, but not enough heat to even make the metal turn orange, which is what I'm looking for. I'm glad to be able to create such an exciting show for you this week, where I basically hold fire in my hands. Got about 10 more minutes before I call it quits. I think this would have been far more exciting if indeed this had been successful, proven that you can definitely use something as simple as this for your propane forge. But fact is, I know it's possible. I've seen it done. But I think that the mag torch is not the way to go on this. I'm going to see about getting a better torch head, and maybe even switch over to MAP gas instead of propane, just because it's known that that flame gets hotter anyway. And again, I can't tell where the hottest part of the flame is. I'll have to go do some investigation on that. Is it at the end of the blue feather, which is what I remember for my regular forge, or is it further back here where the rich, fuel-rich part of the mixture is? I'm pretty sure it's at the end of the feather. There you go. So, you know, a decade ago or so, right? Yeah, everybody can get a hold of some nails as medium to start with. So why not start there? Make rings, make hooks. Make tiny, tiny little swords. I've seen all sorts of fun things being made with nails. Little Thor's hammers. Ornamental Shop. Now you have to tell me what that means. I don't know that I've ever been to an ornamental shop. And anybody who's paying attention can see that the coal forge fire has gone out. Exactly one of the best reasons of having a coal forge. Left unattended, it's no real risk. Oh, neat. So you've been working in metal a while. I took some great photos of some ornamental work while I was in Dublin last week. I'll have to play around with OBS to learn how to show the photos in a window and prepare a little slideshow for next week. It's stuff that when I looked at it, I was like, I know how to do all that. I don't know that I would be able to do it fast. And I'd probably make a lot of mistakes along the way, but I literally probably could reproduce a good bit of what I saw. I'm by no means ready to be a journeyman or anything, but I'm definitely ready to give a go at doing some of that ornamental stuff. It's exactly the kind of work I want to do. Start having some of that ornamental stuff, done and hanging around here in the smithy, so that I can, have it out there saying I know how to do this stuff, and then occasionally take on projects for people. That would be a neat retirement plan. Yeah, I wasn't sure when you were saying ornamental shop if you meant a shop as in a store or you were actually making ornamental ironwork. It's very cool to be able to have had that opportunity. I ended up taking a different road to pay the bills, but now this is where I'm enjoying my leisure time, so I don't know if I would still enjoy it as much if I actually had to earn my living doing it, but maybe I would. All right, well, I'm going to cut the gas there. I'm also going to go ahead and grab my thermometer. I'm curious to know what temp we did actually get it to. As I was saying before my mic got unplugged, because I caught it on my device here, the outside air is about 53 degrees. And according to this, the metal got up to 830 degrees. So, to be able to move metal efficiently, you need to be between 1500 and 1700 degrees. So we only got halfway there. Now, it's a thick piece of metal. So, as Kevin was saying, he got to starting with nails. Bring you back inside here. with a forge built in a very similar fashion. Took it way too far over. There we go. He got started with a forge built similarly, and started with nails, which is much smaller media. You could probably work with small rod as well, but you start getting into the thick stuff here, which is, you know, good, what, half to 3/4 inch thick. There's my calipers. I can tell you exactly. There they are. On. This stuff is 15 millimeters, 15.5 millimeters, or just over a ½ inch, 0.6 inch in the thin area. Yeah, 0.65, and then in the thin area, 0.58. So between 14.8 and 16 millimeters. That's got that up to 850 degrees with just that little handheld propane torch. I assume as soon as I go get a better tip, I'll be able to do better, and I think I'll be investigating getting myself an oxygen tank in here. Go talk to the right folks that know what the real risks are. And I get over here. There we go. I need to switch is what I need to do. Talk to the people who actually do metal work and welding for a living, and learn what the real risks are and what the right safety precautions are, and make that switch over to doing oxygen and propane. And then I'll have myself the ability to have a cutting torch out here as well, and that will be useful. So I think that's the way I'm going to go with it, but we'll see if that's something I get done before next time, which not making any promises. And we'll catch you here next week. Love and light. Oh, and thanks for stopping in, Kevin. Be well.